Okay. Hey, everybody, and welcome to Roundtable, the NPFL's pregame podcast for each of the 6 regular season tournaments, plus the championship coming up later this year. My name is Ken Duke. We are live from the 4 Points by Sheraton Hotel in Huntersville, North Carolina, for Stop 2 on North Carolina and South Carolina's Lake Norman. Our competition begins Wednesday, April 16th. The tournament is a 3-day derby. It runs through Friday, the 18th. Today was just the second day of official practice. We've got 117 top bass pros out there on the water today trying to get ready for a big derby. A lot at stake, $100,000 first prize, plus incredibly valuable points to qualify for the 2026 NPFL Championship. My first guest here tonight, a gentleman from South Carolina, Green Pond, South Carolina, Skeeter Crosby. Skeeter, thanks for joining us today.
Glad you have me.
Now, Skeeter, you've been the subject of a lot in the world of bass fishing for the last few weeks. Since that derby in South Carolina and Santee Cooper, your home body of water a month ago, things were going great for you for 2 days. Then kind of disaster struck. And one of the things I think that everybody at NPFL admires about you is how absolutely flawlessly you handled it.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, like I said on live, and I put out my own video afterwards. You know, it's nobody's fault but my own.
Yeah, let's take people through that, because here's what's going on. You're in the hunt to win the tournament. You're doing terrifically well. You're among the leaders, and we're going into day 3, and you're out there. You're catching a few fish. It's not as fast and furious maybe as it was the first couple of days for you, but you're doing well. You're still very much in the hunt, and you run into a camera boat that had been in the same area as one of your buddies, Buck Mallory, also in the hunt, and you asked an innocent question.
Yep. The camera boat rolled up on me, and we were just chatting. That's all we were doing. And of course, I made the wrong question when I said, "Have y'all been over there to Buck?" And they said, "Yeah," and which nothing wrong with that. But then when I turned around and asked the second question of, "Is he catching them?" You know, because obviously everybody knows there was no intent there. That, you know, I was just hoping he was catching them. We're roommates. We travel together. We talk just about every day.
Yeah. He
calls me every morning when he's on the way to drop his kids off at daycare. He's a builder up in Michigan, just like I am in South Carolina. So, you know, we talk daily, and there was definitely no intent by any of it. But at the end of the day, you know, a rule's a rule. I broke that rule, and honestly, when I got the call, I was like, why is Sean calling me? And I answered the phone, and he told me, and I'm like, oh, I broke a rule.
Yeah, and of course the rule is the no info rule, folks. It says that you can't solicit information that could lead to your catching fish or having some better insight into how fish are being caught. And Skeeter, just making small talk, clearly violated that rule. He asked if another competitor was catching them. Now, that was enough to violate the rule right there. And I know, Skeeter, that a lot of guys think, wow, you didn't do anything wrong. It was just an innocent question. You didn't act on it. But you put yourself in a position where a person in your situation there might have been able to act on it. I mean, if the camera boat had said, yeah, he's tearing them up back here, and you had moved into that area, that would have been a more egregious example. But I think, and what I admired so much about you is you've realized you had broken the letter of the rule, and you handle it so well. And I think that's much to be admired. And I think that in looking at all the social media stuff that was posted about the incident, in looking at all the stuff that we posted through the NPFL about the incident, I think the fans are really on your side, as they should be, because you handled it so well. But I also think you'll agree that Sean Mulhall, NPFL tournament director, really didn't have much choice in the matter.
Yeah, I mean, the NPFL made the right call. I mean, at the end of the day, rules are put in place to be obeyed. If a rule is broken, you need to face the penalty. And, you know, at the end of the day, that's what I did. You know, you learn from your mistakes. I'm a grown man, and trust me, one of the hardest ways to learn something is by making a mistake.
It is not, and I hate so much that it hits you on your home water when you're in a position to potentially win. But I'd say what was a really rewarding moment for me came a couple of weeks later. You and I bumped into each other at the Bassmaster Classic Expo, and you were telling me about the reaction you were getting, not just from fans who recognized you from the incident, but also from your fellow pros on other circuits.
Yeah, I had some of the biggest names in the industry come up to me at the Classic, shake my hand and tell me, man, the way you handled that's the most professional way that situation could have been handled. They commended me on that, and it was just from some of the greats in the sport that are retired, KVD, Swindles talked to me about it, the list goes on. And I had guys just literally walking right up to me, hey, Skeeter, sorry, I hate what happened to you, blah, blah, blah. And it, that kind of meant a lot to me that my peers, that was one of my big things was how's my peers going to react to this, Because, of course, as soon as you hear, oh, he broke a no information rule, a lot of people, they just read the title. They don't read the article and see exactly what happened. Right. But, everybody knew what happened. So at the end of the day, they all commended me on the way I handled it. So.
Yeah, it's not often that a rule gets broken on camera. And in Skeeter Crosby's case, that rule was broken right there on camera live on the live stream from NPFL Day 3 at the Santee Cooper event. It's amazing how many people saw that. It's amazing how many people reached out to you about it. And I don't want to make too much of this because, you had a chance to win a 6-figure check at that event. But I wonder if you didn't ultimately gain more by handling the situation so well than you could have gotten by winning or doing even better in the tournament.
So I had another angler. He fishes the opens. Me and him talked about it, and he said, look, push come to shove, if you wouldn't have won the tournament, he said, I hate to say it, but this could have been the best thing to happen for you. He said, because look at all the publicity you're getting. I looked last week on just Facebook, and it shows on the professional dashboard there on Facebook, I had over 1.2 million views in the last 28 days.
Amazing. Amazing.
It's social media is definitely blown up for me. And obviously, I'm going to try to take advantage of that and try to work hard for sponsors with that, and we'll see where we get with it.
Well, it's only going to do you good because especially in this era when the no information rule is such a hot topic.
Oh, yeah.
And some of the biggest names in the sport have been charged recently with violating that no information rule. To see you handle it the way you did and to see the reaction you got from your peers and hopefully from sponsors, it's ironic that this is going to be a big boon to your career, I hope. But however you get there, being able to show that you have that kind of integrity has got to be rewarding.
The main thing is I told myself is here at Norman to try to back up my performance at Santee, and which, obviously Norman's not a Santee.
It's not.
I said earlier, if I could have 2 fish a day from Santee, you could win this tournament. But, Norman's different. As a spotted bass fisher, there is largemouth, obviously. But, I'm going to put my head down. I'm going to grind it the next 4 days here. We got one more day of practice. I'm going to grind it out. Starting to kind of figure out something. And we're going to see if we can build off of what I figured out today. So
that's fantastic. And you make a great point. The fish at Santee, there were a ton of 5-pound plus fish at Santee. We had fish over 10 pounds at Santee. We had so many 7+ fish at Santee that they weren't even regularly weighing those fish individually. If we see a 6-pounder here, that could absolutely take big fish for this derby.
Oh, somebody, don't get me wrong, somebody's going to figure them out. Don't get me wrong. Somebody's going to catch a good sack that first day, and I think it's going to dwindle off. The problem we got this week is today was great. I wish the weather we had today and tonight would be the rest of the week, but the rest of the week it's going to get back down in the 40s at night. That's going to kind of hurt that shallow game. These fish are wanting to pull up. By my understanding, some fish are already spawned. I see a lot of old beds on one end of the lake. Found some today that were locked on, but, they wasn't no bigger than my hand. Yeah. I was like, I wouldn't even throw at y'all. I was like, 8, 10-inch fish. So, but seen a couple big ones yesterday cruising up shallow. Hopefully hopefully with this full moon, it'll still pull them in and get them to lock on. It's going to be a day-by-day basis for us, though.
Well, now, one thing I think that might indicate some better fishing than we had at Santee is numbers. Even though there were a bunch of big fish caught at Santee, limits were not that easy to come by.
No, it's Santee could be tough. It's gotten a lot better than it was in the past. Now that we started getting all that grass back, heck, I fished a little club tournament last week, and I went back to my little honey hole, of course, and there was a few fish out there, but as soon as I could tell that they wasn't out there like they were, I said, yep, they're all in the dirt. So I went to the upper lake, fished. I caught 40-something fish that day, but they were all, 3.5 to 2.5. It was all bucks up shallow. I had one big one come up, and she was trying to eat the worm out of a 2-pounder's mouth when I was bringing it to the boat. I was like, you got to be kidding me. But it, the good thing is the numbers are starting to increase on Santee since we started getting all this hydrilla and eelgrass back. And, as long as that grass stays, that gives that fry somewhere to grow. And, you can go out and catch 15 pounds with your eyes closed pretty much.
Right. Now, obviously, you cut your teeth at Santee Cooper. That's where you fish regularly. It's your home water, and a lot of your fishing style is based on all your experiences at Santee. And you're a flipper pitcher, heavy line, thick cover guy. Yep. That's very different than what you're going to be doing here this week at Norman, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. It's we'll still be flipping and skipping. This is nothing but docks on this lake. You got some brush piles, you got some laydowns. I've caught a couple out of laydowns and stuff this week, but it's, everybody knows this is a dock-enriched lake.
Well, we're talking about catching a few fish. You caught a few fish in practice, and I guess you want to see a little bit about the size.
Yeah, you got to.
Like
because these spots up here, I ain't gonna lie, I caught fish yesterday, but I only had one keeper. It was a 3.5 pounder, but everything else was 12, 13 inches. And I'm like, this ain't gonna work. We got to figure something out. Now, today, I run from one end to the other. And everywhere I went, I caught fish. The good thing is they got a lot of numbers here, so you can kind of go ahead and set the hook and check and see what you're working with. But it's, today wasn't bad. We had a couple threes, couple 2.5s. But it, like I said, I think I figured something out today. If I can get 5 3-pounders a day for those 3 days of the tournament, I'll be happy with that.
In talking with David Williams yesterday, who's got a tremendous amount of experience in this body of water, he grew up here, he's fished it his whole life. David seemed to think that 15 pounds a day
will
win this thing.
I honestly, I told the wife earlier when I was on the way here, I said, I'd be happy with 12 pounds a day. I said, 12 pounds a day, you'll cut a check.
That'll certainly get you paid. I think everybody agrees in that. And because I think a lot of fish are going to be caught, a lot of fish are going to make it to the scales. There should be a lot of limits. And you talked about 12 pounds a day. There's going to be a dense knot of anglers who have, say, 8 to 12 pounds.
I guarantee you, once you get outside that top 10, I'd say from 10th to 30th could be within ounces. It's just lakes like this, it always comes down to ounces.
Now, you're a traveling, touring bass pro. You fished a lot of water across the country. Do you like a tournament like this where it's going to be ounces separating 10, 12 places?
I don't mind the grinders. I'd have a lot more confidence, though, if I at least caught one big one in practice. But like I said, I seen 2 yesterday. They were nowhere near locked on. They were just cruising. But like I said, hopefully the conditions will get into our favor by the end of the week.
Well, I hope so, because I, as a media guy, as a fan of the sport, as a guy who used to fish tournaments on a very low level, I do enjoy watching a tournament like this where it's tight and where the guy who figures out some little thing, and instead of catching 2.5 pounders, he's catching 3 pounders. It makes all the difference in the world. It kind of reminds me of a lot of smallmouth tournaments.
Oh, yeah.
Where everybody's catching the 3.5s. Like if we're going to the St. Lawrence River later this year, the NPFL is going to see a world of 3 and 3.5 pound smallmouths, but it's going to be the guy who can find fours.
4s and 5s up there.
That's going to make all the difference.
That's going to be totally different. I've never been there. I've been wanting to go for years, so I'm excited to go. It's definitely going to be different, though, for the guys that have been to St. Lawrence and fished because they've been using scope up there.
Yeah.
So now it's going to be a totally different ball game not having that scope. But they've got history there. I've got zero history there. I can go ahead and tell you, I'm probably going to go look for largemouths, what I'm going to do.
And you can find them there, and they're quality fish there.
Especially that end of the river we're on.
And you can compete with largemouth there, which I think is amazing and creates an opportunity maybe for somebody like you who doesn't want to completely roll the dice and go after a fish that you probably haven't caught a ton of smallmouth in your life.
I mean, last year at Saginaw, I got on them in practice, and me being hard-headed, I was like, yep, I'm smallmouth fishing the whole time. And because I was on some good smallmouth out there, and the first day of the tournament, they all turned to like 1 and 2 pounders, and I'm like, all right, this ain't going to work. So finally I went to largemouth fishing, and I was like, okay. I was like, I'll just stick with that. But all the big ones had left that area, and I was like, I just made an 80-mile run out there in 5-footers to catch 1 and 2 pounders. I was like, where'd the 5s and 6s go?
Now, we just finished day 2 of practice. 3 days of practice, 3 days of tournament, and no off day at this event. What is it you hope to accomplish on day 1 of practice? Let's ratchet back 24 hours. What are you trying to accomplish on day 1?
Day 1 was feeling out to see what stage these fish were in.
Okay.
I ran, obviously, in the dirt looking for spawners. I ran pre-spawn and some post-spawn stuff on where I thought they would be. I said I caught fish yesterday, just wasn't catching no keepers was the big thing. And, I mean, I went from one end of this lake all the way up the river. And it's, a lot of people don't realize Norman's actually a pretty big lake.
And it's got a tremendous amount of shoreline.
Oh, yes. Lord knows all the docks.
Yeah, it is not going to fish small.
I've skipped and flipped and bebopped and bibbity-boo, whatever, with a jig, worm, everything on docks. I mean, you can catch fish all over this lake, but the key is getting 5 keepers. And, that's my goal is go ahead and get 5 keepers, hopefully quick, and just go hunting. Try to find that big bite. That's going to be the key to getting a check in this tournament is getting a big bite.
Well, that's a great observation. That's true in a lot of tournament waters. But here, the difference between a quality fish, let's say 3 pounds, and a big bite is only maybe a pound difference, right?
Yeah, it's I said, I know there's some big ones here. I said, I seen 2 yesterday, and I'm like, oh, it'd be nice for them to lock on tomorrow night or something. But
without giving up too much here, how big were they?
It's about 5 to 6 pounds.
Oh, now that's, yeah.
For here, that's big.
If you could get 2 of those over the course of 3 days.
It would have to be about 8 or 9.
Yeah, you were culling those fish at Santee.
Yeah, most definitely. But I mean, I would love to run across a big mouth one like that. That's going to be the difference maker in this tournament.
One of the things I love about Lake Norman, I love about spotted bass lakes. And as you know, Skeeter, I call it the spotification of America. As our reservoirs get older, they get clearer, they get less fertile, they're better and better habitat for spotted bass. Mm-hmm. So whether you start out as a spotted bass angler on Lake Norman or not, if you fish it as long as David Williams has since the late 70s, early 80s, when it was a largemouth body of water, you have to evolve and change with the times and become a spotted bass angler. And I think that is a real testament to the guys who are great at the sport. They are able to adapt like that. How difficult is it for a shallow water, heavy cover, heavy line, muscle rod guy like you, the ultimate power fisherman? I still
got a finesse game now.
Excellent to hear.
I pulled out the old drop shot this morning on them. So I mean, I don't mind the finesse game. I mean, if that's what I got to do, that's what I got to do. It don't bother me one bit at all. My thing here, though, like I said, is finding those 14-inch fish. That's the main thing. Yeah.
Now, is that going to make it tough for guys to get limits, the 14-inch size limit we have here?
It could. I mean, like I said, I only had 1 keeper yesterday. It was a 3.5 pounder. Everything else I caught was under 14.
Now, because there are a lot of boat docks out here, I mean a lot of boat docks, and naturally a lot of brush piles, some blowdowns, as you say, Is flipping pitching going to be an important part of your mix?
It could be if somebody figures that out. I haven't been able to figure it out. I mean, I went and fished some stuff to look like the juice, and it wouldn't get bit in.
What's the fishing pressure like out there? We're here during the middle of the week. Basically, tournament starts Wednesday, ends Friday. That's going to relieve some of the pressure, right?
Yeah, well, like I watched, obviously, I think it's called Carolina Elite. It's a Facebook group. And one of the locals here that holds, I think, like some of the Wildcat tournaments in the evenings and stuff, he made a post the other day, and I commended him on this. He said, hey, guys, we're not going to hold any Tuesday nighters or anything like that this week because they knew we were here in town. And I actually went on there and thanked them and told them, I said, as an NPFL angler, we appreciate that.
Very considerate.
That they are showing respect, Like I told them, I said, hey, I know it's public water.
Absolutely.
But those guys, they know we're out here, we're competing for $100,000, and they just don't want to get in our way. And I commend them on that. That's top notch right there.
Yeah, that's very considerate. And as you say, it is public water, so those guys have every right to be here. They're here week after week, all year long, and I wouldn't begrudge them having a Tuesday nighter or a Thursday night derby.
I think I'd rather the weight boat stay home and them fish.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you get somebody out there who's really stirring it up. That can present a challenge. But I love the fact that the NPFL is out here Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Hopefully, that's going to help the quality of fishing out, and we're going to see a lot of limits. Because to me, that's the excitement of this tournament is we're going to see a lot of fish caught. We might see some records broken with regard to the numbers of fish brought to the scales this week because. And you can confirm this for me, Skeeter. It looks like we got fish in all stages of the spawn. We got some pre-spawn fish, some fish hard on the beds, and we got some fish that have already spawned.
Yeah, most definitely. There's some post-spawners. There's pre-spawners still, and there's some spawn. I mean, I've talked to a few guys said they've seen some on the beds that were good ones, 4 pounds plus. I haven't ran into that yet, and don't worry, I've been burning down them impulse lithium batteries. I was surprised this afternoon. I checked my battery app, and I was at 80%. I was like, man, I've had that thing on 9 all day long, burning it down the bank. So it's, hopefully, like I said, I wish the weather that we had today was the rest of the week. But these 40-degree nights, but, I mean, the water's been anywhere from 62 to 69 degrees. So as long as it's above 60, I'll be happy.
There you go.
So they should come.
All right, you got one more day of practice, Skeeter. What are you hoping to accomplish tomorrow?
Sore mouth every one I can. That way,
come on now.
I'm playing defense on everybody.
See,
I'm going to catch everything that bites tomorrow.
Are you really?
I'm going to go to totally different areas. No, I'm just kidding. No, like I said, I think I figured something out this evening, and I'm going to try that a little bit tomorrow in some other areas of the lake and see if it works. Cut the hooks off and go from there.
Well, we're talking about all stages of the spawn here at Lake Norman this week. Does that tell you that this tournament is going to be won, say, in 6 feet of water or less? Which is your wheelhouse?
If they make a big push, yes. I mean, I would look for somebody. I mean, Drew Cook, we know he's one of the best sight fishermen there is. Somebody's going to figure that out. It would be Drew Cook, hands down. Hackney, of course, he's right there too. But at the end of the day, it's up to the fish if they decide to come or not. I mean, if they come, we could have a so-called slugfest here. But it's not going to obviously be on, like, Santee level, obviously. But
well, no, certainly not in terms of size of individual fish, but maybe in terms of numbers it will be. And maybe because we have fish in all stages of the spawn, that's going to put a lot of different techniques into play.
Yeah, and, the bad thing is those fish, when they come off that bed and they go to post-spawn, they'll get in a funk. Also, when those fish go to spawn from pre-spawn, they'll get in a little 2-3 day funk right there where they don't want to hit nothing.
Right.
And I think that's kind of what we ran into a little bit Sunday. But I think it's starting to turn around.
Well, it's going to be a fun tournament. And obviously we don't know exactly who's going to win, but man, oh man, there is some local talent.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy how many guys live within, let's say, 30 minutes of Lake Norman and who are fishing the NPFL. There are 20 North Carolinians in the tournament, 13 South Carolinians, of course, including you. That's as much local talent as I think I've ever seen in a major bass tournament.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to play into those guys' wheelhouse. You know, Shane LaHue, Jason Wilson, Shane Lineberger, I mean, all of them.
Yeah.
I mean, they know how to grind on this lake.
Yes, they do.
You know, you take some guys like, say, perhaps me, it could spin me out. You know what I mean? Just because it's such a grind. But, you know, for people like me that not used to a place like this, we just got to keep our head down, keep trolling motor wet, keep going.
Well, you're off to an amazing start this year, sir.
Thank you.
And you're in great shape to qualify for the championship right now. Just got to keep the train rolling and moving down the track.
Tracks.
Yeah. That's got to be a big goal for you. You had a tough year in your rookie season with the NPFL, but you got gradually better as each event went on, and you started this year with a real bang.
Yeah, that's my main goal after I found out earlier last week, my daughter's graduating from high school first day of Douglas tournament.
Oh.
So it looks like I'll be going to Douglas and practicing for 3 days, drive back, go to her graduation. So I'm going to miss the first day of the tournament. So, you know, I've got to try to finish, at least get a check here. You know, unfortunately, Douglas is going to be about like Norman is. I've never fished Douglas, but I've done enough research. You know, it's not a Santee where you could pull a Zach Burge, go fish for 2 days, or pull a Skeeter Crosby and fish for 2 days and still finish 30th.
Yeah.
So,
of the guys who only fished 2 days, you beat Zach.
Yep, I finally beat one of my heroes. So
Zach Burge is a dangerous man, folks. At Santee Cooper, because he also fishes the Bass Pro Tour, Zach missed all of practice, and the first day of the event, fished 2 days, still finished, I believe, 38th place. Yeah. And of course, Skeeter, you had the incident on the final day, still finished in 30th place. So that's I hate seeing you guys handicap yourselves that way, but it's very impressive.
Yes. Swindle told me at the classic, he said, son, my God, you was working on them quick. Every morning, 30 minutes, you done had 29 pounds. He said, son, it took me 3 days of fishing, and I barely beat you. He said, I fished my tail off. I said, yeah. I said, well, it took 29 of y'all 3 days of fishing to beat me out of the top three. So, well,
hey, the rest of the season, smooth sailing. No more incidents like that.
Oh, no.
But you really showed a lot of class, Skeeter. And I tell you what, as a fan of the sport, I appreciate that. And I appreciate what you bring to the game. And thank you for joining me on Roundtable.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you, man. We got Brad Staley. If you don't mind telling Brad to step on up here, we'll get rolling with him. But thank you, Skeeter. Appreciate you. Yeah, folks, my next guest is a North Carolinian. He is from Sophia, North Carolina. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. We're going to find out in a minute. But his name is Brad Staley, and he's about to take a seat right here. He had to get some water.
What's up, Mr.
Brad?
Duke?
Welcome.
Hey, guys. Thank you for having me, man.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Yeah,
my
absolutely.
pleasure. We're just talking with Skeeter. I don't know how much of that interview you got to catch. You were backstage. Again, folks, we're in the fancy new studio of NPFL, and excited to be here. Often Roundtable is at a nice restaurant, a bar, something like that. But to be here in the studio is definitely a different vibe.
It is. It's really cool, man. You know, Fullcom Media stepping up, making things happen.
Absolutely. I'm excited for it for 2025. But I'm excited to have you on the show, Brad, because, for a lot of reasons. You're a very experienced pro. You've fished FLW. You fished some BASS stuff, and you've done well. And after a rookie season in 2023 with NPFL, you're back for another season this year.
Yeah, man, we're back to see how things go. You know, I had a great time in 23 fishing. Really missed it last year. Had some stuff. Honestly, I took the year off. I wanted to try to get better with forward-facing sonar. I mean, that's truly what the way the schedule set up last year, I'm like, I'm going to get my teeth kicked in on forward-facing sonar. So I spent a lot of time working with that, and then the decision was made to no forward-facing sonar. So
yeah, take that off your plate.
Yeah, and the schedule is just awesome this year. The way it sets up, the lakes we're going to, very diverse. I like more of a spring-centric schedule, I guess, as opposed to the fall. So I'm really excited about everywhere we're going this year.
That's wonderful. You had a great year in 2023.
I did.
You started off with a bang, as I recall. I think right out of the gate, you had a second place finish at, I think it was Wright Patman. Just a really strong start, and looking forward to you having another great year this year. Hopefully, qualify for the 2026 championship.
Yep, that's the goal. That's what we're trying to do. You know, I was very fortunate when I started in 23. Wright Patman just kind of set up well. I missed opportunities at the first event that was at Pickwick. I should have been in the check line there, but missed opportunities, you know, you can't cry over that. And then Wright Patman went well, Santee went well, and then that's when we got out of the spring and kind of got into the fall tournament.
That's where I was going, because you mentioned that you like that spring-centric tournament schedule, and obviously, you know, most tournaments start in late winter, early spring, and that's where we are here with NPFL. What is it about that time of year that suits your style so well?
I like fishing shallow, like kind of power finesse fishing, like we talked earlier. Just being able to burn down the bank and just run it, you know, just as fast as you go. There's a lot of times I'll fish with a trolling motor on 8 or 9, and just rolling, looking for active fish. And in the springtime, you can do that. And then it seems like in the fall, not so much. You got to throw at something way too many times. If I throw over there twice and it don't bite it, we got to go find one that's ready to bite. So.
I'm with you, but I think that's because I lack patience and skills. Those are not your problems. Now, you mentioned we were talking earlier, and we were talking a little bit about your fishing style, and I'm going to let you throw that phrase out there again, but and then I want you to explain it. How would you describe your fishing style? And I'm not going to be happy if you use the word versatile.
I like power finesse. Is that what you're talking about?
I'm talking about power finesse.
Yeah, power finesse fishing. I like that. You know, it gets you a lot of bites, and if you do it right and things line up right, you know, you can cover a lot of water and get a lot of bites at the same time, and you can honestly catch some big fish. You know, I weighed in, I think 3 fish over 6, maybe 3 fish over 7 in 23 in the NPFL, and every one of those fish came on a wacky rig. You know, and 10-pound line in the bushes at Wright Patman. You know.
Is there a better way to catch numbers of bass? And we'll go back to the big fish element in a moment, but is there a better way to catch numbers of fish than to wacky rig a stickworm?
No, man, it's not a fishing lure, it's a fish getter. It goes out there and gets them and brings them back to you. That's what it does.
Hard to argue with that.
Yeah, it is. It's a getter.
Very few things look as realistic or as lifelike or as non-artificial as a stickworm gently wafting down. How do you rig a stickworm? Are you one of those guys who uses an O-ring or one of those VMC harnesses, or do you just go right through the bait with maybe a heavier stickworm?
No, I use an O-ring, but it's the O-ring that has the little O-ring off of it, so that way it kind of puts the hook in a better position. And then I skip with it a lot, skipping docks and things. And it doesn't, with the original style O-ring, you actually throw that off. With that little bitty O-ring on there, it holds it on the hook. The barb of the hook holds it on there. And I don't lose them like that. So
I see what you're saying. So the hook is perpendicular to the bait.
Yep, exactly.
Gotcha.
And usually, I mean, 90% of the time, it's in the top of the mouth, and that's where you want it at. And you know.
Oh, no question. Yeah. A lot of 10-pound fluorocarbon. Is that what you're using?
Yeah, 10-pound fluorocarbon. That's what I use. I've
gone spinning outfit, no doubt.
It is, yeah. And I've gone down to 8 in real clear lakes. This is one that's real clear. Potentially go down to 8 here just to see, you know, number of bites you get or whatever. But 10 just seems to work well for me. Let's
talk about the whole setup, if you don't mind.
Yep.
So you're using a lot of 10. Might go down to 8. You say where it's really clear.
Yeah.
Do you want to mention the fluorocarbon you use?
I use just Sunline. Just
okay.
Regular, like Invisex Sunline or.
Invisex would be Cigar.
Yeah.
Sunline would be Shooter.
Yeah, it's like Shooter. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Sniper or one of those.
Sniper. That's the one.
Yeah.
Sniper, the red pack. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Obviously, Sunline, Cigar. Those folks make great products.
They do. Yeah.
Do you use a braid mainline?
I do. Yeah, and it's just a the one at Walmart, Power Pro. Yeah,
there you go.
Just because it was readily available at Walmart, so that's what I use. And I use like a 2-pound diameter, 10-pound test. It just comes off the reel a lot better. You can throw it further. So
yeah, people don't realize how much further you can throw a lighter one, and there's really not a lot of reason to go super heavy with your mainline braid on that technique, especially if you're skipping or trying to make a long cast with it.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, I've caught that 2-pound diameter, 10-pound test. I've caught 6-pound smallmouth and 9-pound largemouth on that setup, and it works for me. So I just roll with it. All
right, here's my ugly question for you, Brad. What knot do you tie to connect your fluorocarbon?
I don't even know what it's called. I think it's it's Albright, I believe is what it is. It's not the real complicated.
Not the FG.
Yeah, it's not the real complicated knot. It's just a real simple hold your line together 5 times, pull it 5 times, pull it. I mean, I can tie that knot in like 15 seconds. So
that's so important because science has shown that the FG knot requires 2 additional arms that the human body simply doesn't have. A lot of people
they don't tell you that little disclaimer.
They do not tell you that. No. I remember the first time I saw somebody tie that knot, I thought, oh no, I'm not going to do that. But I've tried. Yeah. And you know, I haven't learned it very well yet, but
no, the one that I do is just really quick, easy, and like I said, you know, 6-pound smallmouth, 9-pound largemouth, so it's working, and I'm not going to try to fix something that's not broke.
How about your rod? What do you like for a rod for that application?
So I use a little bit stiffer. It's a 6'9". So my height, I found out a 6'9" rod I can skip much better than a 7 or 7'1" or whatever. I can be way more accurate. So I use a 6'9" rod, and it's a fast, medium, heavy. It's pretty stiff for a spinning rod.
A lot of guys go medium.
Yeah.
But yeah, medium. Well, if you're trying to jack them out from under a boat dock or
some stuff, I'll throw that wacky rig where a lot of people would throw a jig with 20-pound line or whatever. So I've got to get him coming to me. I'm trying to get all the advantage in my favor.
I got off the topic of leaders, but let me go back and ask you, how long a fluorocarbon leader do you like off your braid?
I run a pretty long one. Like, it'll come back on the reel and get a couple of turns on the reel, and then I'll cut it and tie my lure on there. If I don't break it off.
So we're talking 15, 16 feet.
Yeah, it's pretty long. And I just, so that way in the course of the day when you retie and stuff, you're not having, if I don't break it off, I'll use that 1 leader and not retie all day, and then I'll, retie at night. But I like a pretty long leader.
Yeah, it just makes a lot of sense. The guys I've talked to who I consider to be really good at that technique, like yourself, they like a longer leader because given where they're putting that bait, they know they're going to break off at some point, and they might as well. What's your hook?
I've played with a lot of different hooks. I like the little VMC weedless Nico hook. That's my favorite hook, but it's got a long shank on it, and so I've been playing with a lot of different short shank hooks to be more weedless. And I lose so many fish on it, but the best one I have found has been the jungle wacky hook. That's the hook that I like the best, the little jungle wacky.
What size you like?
It's a 2/0.
2/0. That's a pretty good size hook.
It is. And we power finesse fishing, man.
I was complaining to Brad earlier about these oxymoronic terms like power finesse, fishing fast, slow, all the things that I've heard through the decades as a fishing writer, and that just make me think, oh man, this is clearly a term that maybe this guy has a very specific idea of what it means. But I love what Brad is talking about and fishing that wacky worm, especially, and working it fast. Trolling motor on high, hitting as many targets as possible, putting that bait places other guys simply can't put it.
Yeah, the biggest thing with me is I'm not going to beg one to bite. Like, I'll throw it in there, I pick up on it a couple of times. If one doesn't have it, we're going to find something else to throw at. Like, yeah, we don't. It's a target-rich environment, so we're good.
Well, especially here.
It is.
Now, you live in Sophia. Did I say that right?
It's Sophia, whatever.
Okay.
Either way.
Yeah. I realize it's a very common name, but a lot of pronunciations. Yeah. And I don't know how often you get down here to Lake Norman. But you're not too far away, right?
No, it's about an hour and 15 minutes. If traffic is kind of typical down here, it's 2 hours, hour and 15 to 2 hours, depending on traffic. So that's one of the reasons I don't come down here a lot. It's just traffic is crazy down here, and the fishing. There's a lot of really good lakes I got to go by to get down here. So there's a lot of cookie cutter fish here. You need to do. I know you like to do statistics. You need to do a statistic and see the most limits ever caught, average. Number of limits caught, and I think this lake would rival it because fish per acre, I don't know of anywhere on earth that's got more fish.
I think this place would blow that record away if only the size limit was 12 inches. At 14, I think it makes it a challenge.
We'll see.
And I'm with you. I think the exciting thing about this tournament is going to be how tight it is.
It's going to be very tight.
I mean, a pound could separate 12, 14 places.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it will, 100%. I feel like somewhere around 48 is probably going to win, somewhere around 16 pounds a day, and then 36-ish to get a check. So you got 12 pounds separated. Oh,
my gosh.
Yeah, it's going to be tight. And one 4-pounder a day or, a 5-pounder will go a long way on this lake. It's almost like – it's kind of like fishing in Florida, but the fish are smaller. In Florida, you got to catch a 9-pounder to have a good day. And here at Lake Norman, you got to catch a 4-pounder to really get you up in that 12, 13-pound range.
Now, what percentage of the time that you launch in competition do you have that spinning outfit ready with a wacky rig? 100%. 100%. Okay. When you launch on a place like Lake Norman, which has thousands of boat docks, do you just think to yourself, I am in heaven, this is my realm, I can put this bait in places that most people will never dream of reaching, this is my derby?
No, my mind is overstimulated on this lake. It's just way too much going on because you can get bit doing so many different things. There's no shortage of bites. I've gotten bit in 6 inches of water, in the past 2 days, and I've got bit in 29 foot of water the past two, and just everywhere in between. So it's just, you can't ever narrow it down. And I really do the best, I think, when I can have 1 or 2 rods that I'm primarily using. And here it's just junk fishing. It's just whatever you want to do.
I was talking to David Williams yesterday, and David grew up around here. He's fished this place his whole life. I got to figure David Williams probably knows Lake Norman as well as anybody in the field, and the field is stacked with local talent.
There's a lot of people from North Carolina fishing this year.
It's crazy. There's 20 North Carolinians in the tournament, 13 South Carolinians. Some of them live pretty close, too, because this is right on the border. I think that in terms of knowledge of the body of water, experience about this place through the seasons and so forth, this has got to be the most educated field I've ever seen in a major bass tournament.
Yeah, well, you had David last night, and you got Scott Hamrick tomorrow night. They're very educated on this lake, and they're very good on this lake. I don't know how. I'm just filling the field here for this thing.
No, I'm picking you to do well in this tournament.
Well, I appreciate that.
There's the pressure.
Yeah, there's some more pressure. I needed that.
Exactly. You need that. Is there pressure because you're a North Carolinian living in North Carolina and all that good stuff?
I mean, I think so. I mean, my little girl's going to come to the weigh-in, and my family's coming down and stuff like that. So there's a little bit of pressure. I want to do well for those guys. But I put enough pressure on myself all the time. When I don't catch them, it really Santee, I caught them good the first 2 days and then did not catch them the last day. So nobody beats me up harder than I do. So,
I hear that from so many great bass anglers. They put a lot of pressure on themselves. Well, you raise a great point. I know a lot of great bass anglers like you who beat themselves up when they have a tough day or a tough tournament. How long do you wallow in that before you say, time to change gears, time to refocus, time to look ahead?
It's shorter now than it used to be.
Good.
Used to it would be there and poking you in the back of the head quite a bit. But now, no, it's fishing, man. Like I've seen enough of this stuff and done enough of it that some days you're going to catch them, some days you're not going to catch them. So it's just part of it, unfortunately.
I think that's a really healthy attitude. And not everybody develops that. And a lot of these guys who are super talents will let it eat at them. And it really bothers them. So I'm glad that you're cutting that time limit of kicking yourself down.
You watch some of the great, John Cox. I've got a lot of respect for John Cox. He's one of the best anglers on earth.
No question.
And there's days he goes out and catches 1 or 2 fish. So when you see stuff like that, it kind of puts it in perspective, and that's what he does for a living. I sell steel for a living, and I'm able to do this part time. So I'm a happy guy.
And that's nice to have that kind of. I don't want to say freedom because you obviously have another job that you have to do and things like that. But when you're not relying on it 100% for your income and your livelihood and putting food on the table and supporting your daughter. Does that take some of the pressure off you?
Absolutely. I'm not doing this for a living. Exactly what you said. If I don't catch them, I have a day job that I can go back to, and everyth's going to be okay. It's not like don't catch them, I'm not going to eat. I'd be a lot skinnier if that was the case. So no, it does. It's not a lot of pressure. I want to do well, but mainly more so for myself. I want one of those big, one of those shields I told you earlier.
I've worked with all the leagues. The NPFL Shield Trophy is the best one out there.
It's sweet. It's nice.
I'll tell you one that's even cooler, Brad, is the Angler of the Year Trophy, the gold one. My gosh, that's a beautiful trophy.
It is, and I'd like to get my hands on one of those as well. I stumped my toe for sure at Santee the last day. But
you're 66th at Santee. Yeah, I don't think you're out of it. Because I do like stats. I can tell you that the worst finish in a season by anybody who's won Angler of the Year in the NPFL was still a top 20. Okay, that's how demanding it's been in the past. But I think this year, with an influx of additional talent, more world-class talent than the NPFL had last year or the year before or the year before, I think there's more opportunity now to still succeed, still win an AOY, and stub your toe.
So you're saying there's a chance?
I'm saying there's a chance.
That's all we need.
I'm saying you can still get it done, but I'm saying you better start Wednesday.
You got to catch them every day. No, absolutely. The field is loaded this year, and it's really cool. You know, if you do well fishing, you know, you can go out and fish a club tournament against your buddies or whatever, but you got to challenge yourself, and you're never going to challenge yourself if you're not fishing against some of the best out there. I mean, we got some of the best fishermen on earth fishing with us.
Yeah, it's a really impressive field. I thought in 2023, which was your first year with NPFL, it was a very good field. Then I thought 2024 was an excellent field. I think 2025 is a world-class field.
It's really cool. I mean, seeing these guys that fish all the time, you get to watch them fish in the other trails, and then they're here fishing. You get to fish against them and stuff. I got buddies texting me, man, did you see what they caught today or whatever? I'm like, yeah, I got to fish against him next week. So, you know, you're hoping they make the cut so they miss a couple of days of practice. Maybe it'll even things out a little bit.
and that doesn't necessarily seem to bother a guy like Zach Burge, for example. Yeah. Kyle Welcher.
Practice,
yeah, Burge doesn't even practice, and he still finishes 38th, I think. Fishes 2 days.
Wrecked him. Good thing he didn't make it all 3 days. It would have been a lot more exciting.
It would have been maybe a much tighter tournament at the very top. We got Kyle Welcher, who's coming off a BASS win here in North Carolina, and he had to miss a day of practice because he was too busy beating the rest of the field by 45 pounds.
45 pounds, that's impressive. That's impressive.
That's ridiculous is what that is.
With the level of talent that all the leagues have, and somebody laps the field that much, that's insane.
I think that was the most dominating win in almost 50 years, which is amazing. Talk to me about your very favorite lure. What is your favorite lure to fish?
Probably a buzzbait, just for the simple fact of the fun, the sheer fun whenever they blow up on it. Like I like to skip a buzzbait back under docks, and you can't even see that thing, and you're just, and then that's fun.
You know, you talk about skipping a buzzbait, and of course you can't do it with a buzzbait that has a skirt. That won't skip. Am I right? Uh-oh. I see the look.
No, it doesn't skip well with the skirt. You gotta put a frog or some kind of plastic.
I shouldn't assume something when I'm sitting next to a world-class angler because I'm probably wrong.
When's he coming in?
No. That's you, Brad Staley. But okay, so I think, and I can skip a buzzbait. I'm not saying I do it well. I'm not saying I don't backlash more than I want. But if you put a toad or a soft plastic bait, especially something with like a planing surface on it.
Just like skipping a rock.
Exactly. You can skip it almost like a rock. Did you know that the guy who came up with that is in the field?
He is in the field.
He is in the field. Yeah, South Carolina, Todd Otten. We'll have to get Todd on Roundtable one of these days. But now, is a buzzbait going to play this week?
It's not for me. I'm hoping this warm day today and this warm night tonight. Maybe tomorrow they will, but so far I've not had much success on the buzzbait. I'm trying, but
you mentioned starting the tournament with a couple of rods on the deck. Is that, if I walk up to Brad Staley's boat on a tournament morning and I see just 2 rods on the deck, does that mean this is a dangerous man?
I don't know what that means. I don't ever feel good just having 2 rods out there. If I can't, like, at any minute trip over stuff and fall in the water, like, I don't have enough stuff out. I need to have a lot of rods out. Just for the simple fact, I may, go buy something. Wind's blowing on a point or something. I want to pick up a jerkbait and throw over there, something like that.
Yep, got to get the mic closer. We want everybody to hear everything you say, Brad Staley.
I've been a little sick, so that might have something to do with it.
Otherwise, they have to listen to me, and nobody wants that. Nobody's looking for that. Okay, so you like to have, when I see a guy with a lot of rods on the deck,
you think he's
12,
confused?
15, 20. No, but I think he might be junk fishing. I think he's fishing whatever's in front of him. He's probably covering a lot of bank. And here's a blowdown, I'm going to pitch a jig.
Yeah.
Here's a boat dock, I'm going to skip a wacky worm or a buzz bait. Here's a point, I got a crankbait over here.
No, you're exactly right. And a lot of times I'll have 12 out, and I only end up using 3 or 4 of them throughout the course of the day. But I feel better because I got 12. I got choices out there just in case. But it's funny at Wright Patman, I had 6 spinning rods set up for wacky rigging. And so when I break one off, because I was getting hung in
you don't want to retie.
I didn't have time. And I think one of the days I ended up having to retie one, so I broke off at least 6 that day.
If I broke off a wacky rig and I had an FG knot, if I had 4 hours left in the day, that's what it would take. To the dock. But not you. You got your Albright knot going and stuff like that. But 6 rods, absolutely identical.
No, they were a little different, but I had 4 that were identical setups. The other 2 I didn't have 6 that were the same length.
I didn't ask you the very basic question, which I bet folks would really like to know, and that is, what is your favorite stickworm, wacky worm? You want to share that, or
It's the generic one, the originator. I just throw
Yamamoto Senko?
Yamamoto Senko. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
A very soft bait, so that's another reason to use that O-ring.
It is. Yeah. It's interesting when you find the right O-ring. You can catch several fish on it. Now down here, it seems like spots. Their teeth are a lot rougher than the largemouth are, and they'll tear one up. You'll go through. I've got a couple of 100 packs in the front of the boat, and they're biting at them. And anybody can catch 9 pounds at Lake Norman on a wacky rig for sure.
Well, there you go. Now, is this a tournament that's going to be won on a pattern, or is this a tournament that might be won in a very specific location?
No, I think it would be a pattern. This is more of a pattern lake. It's not really a specific spot-oriented lake, I don't think. I think you can run around and kind of do the same stuff all over the lake. But the problem is you can do whatever you want to do. And that is cool about this lake. That's why it fishes
very
so big.
Cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
Everybody's not going to be doing the same thing. You'll have people out on shoals, out in the middle of the lake doing stuff, and you'll have people in the backs of pockets. There's fish everywhere, so the lake's going to fish very big. And it fishes big kind of anyway, just it's got so many little pockets and points and stuff on it. It's 32,000 acres, but it fishes much bigger than that.
It's got so much shoreline.
It does.
And so many boat docks.
It does.
And that's one of the reasons why I'm really looking to you, Brad Staley. A lot of pressure on you just from me, because this is your place.
It's got a lot of docks. There's no shortage of those, and but trying to find something else besides boat docks, and it's crazy. You can fish a dock and turn around, fish the point, catch something off the point. There's just a lot of fish.
A lot of points too.
A lot of points.
What percentage of the catch that we're going to see here over the course of 3 days do you think are going to be spotted bass? Most of them?
Yeah, I would think. I mean, I would say 70%, something like that.
Okay.
Wildlife was out here last weekend. I run a tournament down here. We had the Big Bass Bash, and Wildlife was here. And the first day, we had 97 largemouth weighed in out of probably, 200 fish weighed in. So it was close to 50%. But that's single fish, and the bigger fish are typically largemouth.
Sure.
So, but it was cool to kind of hear that data. You're a statistic guy.
Well, I try to be. Now, spots obviously typically don't get as big as largemouth. 5-pound spots are a really big spot.
It is.
And I realized that decades ago, this was a largemouth lake. So I'm guessing that percentage of spots as part of the catch is constantly going up and has been going up gradually for many years. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so. It's kind of interesting though. It seems like in the last couple of the years, the spots actually got a little bit bigger. This lake it's kind of crazy if you pay attention to it during the shad spawn in the night tournaments, and they have a night tournament down here pretty much every week or every night of the week. But it'll take mid-20 bags.
Whoa!
And that's all spots.
That's very impressive.
It is. And kudos to those guys. They actually put a post out on the on their Facebook page, and they decided not to have any tournaments this week because we were in town. So thank you guys for that.
Yeah, Skeeter Crosby mentioned that, and I mentioned to him, I thought that was a really nice gesture because, as I know you'll agree, this is public water. They have every right to be out there.
Absolutely, they do. Yeah, no, for sure. But that was really cool that they did that, and some of the locals really appreciate that.
Well, it's we talked a little bit about what it might take to win out here. You mentioned, I think, 48 pounds, so 16 a day, something like that. If the tournament started tomorrow, how do you feel about your chances?
Man, I could catch 9 pounds. I could catch 16. Like it depends. Get the right bites and get them in the boat. Being able to fish, where I want to be able to fish at and stuff like that. This lake it's weird because you can't make up a lot of ground here, so you can't get too far off. Because somebody may catch a 7-pounder. They caught them out of here before, but the chances are pretty slim. So it's hard to make up ground. You've got to stay on that 14, 15, 16. You got to catch that consistency.
Obviously your goal is to do well, or at the very least to have a high finish and pick up some points, make up some slack from from Santee. What do you hope to accomplish on your final day of practice tomorrow?
Just kind of expand on what I think I figured out, and look in some different areas. Try to eliminate. I eliminated some stuff today for sure. So try to eliminate a little bit more stuff and see if we can get it kind of zeroed down to exactly what I'm looking for. But the thing with that is you can't get too locked in. You got to fish open, and that's what happened to me the last day at Santee. I got too locked into what I was doing and didn't fish with the open mind. In practice, everybody will have a great practice because you fish with an open mind. You're doing different things. You're trying different things instead of trying to force feed the fish and make them bite in the tournament.
Have you made a decision yet as to whether or not you're going to target pre-spawn fish, spawning fish, post-spawn fish?
I'm gonna target whichever ones bite. That's the ones that I'm targeting. I don't care which.
I like that.
Yeah, whichever way they are in the spawn, I don't care. As long as they bite and as long as they're like 3-pounders, I'm good.
Is this going to be one in shallow water, let's say 6 feet or less, or have the guy or the guys who are willing to get offshore and maybe target some deeper spawning spots or something?
Possibly. I mean, I could see like 10 foot or less. I would feel pretty confident with that.
Right.
But somebody may find something deeper. Like I said, I mean, I caught one in 27 foot of water yesterday, but it was 14-inch, weighs 1.5 pounds. It's a cookie cutter spot. So somebody may be able to figure something out offshore. But I mean, typically Lake Norman, it's usually a kind of a shallow power fishing deal down here.
Is this a lake, and because of the 14-inch size limit, is this a situation where you're going to go out first thing in the morning and try to get 5 keepers in the well and then go for a bigger fish?
No,
or
I'm just going fishing. I'm just going to fish kind of what I feel like I may be able to catch some bigger fish and just do that all day. You should run into 5 without issue. I mean, you can stop on a windy point and catch 5 on this lake that'll weigh 9 pounds. So
there you go.
Yeah.
All right, here's one of the best things I've ever read on the angler profiles came from Brad Staley. You know where I'm going with this?
I know exactly where you're going.
We didn't talk about this before.
This is the first time that anybody actually brought it up. I was wondering if anybody actually read it. So I sat there for
I pay attention.
I sat there for like an hour trying to figure out what to write on that. And I'm like, I'm just going to put something stupid. So
before I say this, so everyone will know what I'm talking about here, I want Brad Staley to know I agree with you 100%. I am absolutely on board with you. And here's Brad's statement. He says, I do not trust people who don't like peanut butter.
Absolutely.
First of all, amen.
Yeah, you can't trust people that don't like peanut butter. If anybody says they don't eat peanut butter, I'm like, I don't know about you.
You don't like peanut butter, get away from it.
Well, look, because you're my friend and I like you, I got to tell you, there's an ice cream joint here in town. They've got a peanut butter cup sundae. It's the greatest thing you can ever eat. So I'll put you on that.
Okay, as soon as this is over, because I don't want to run on the place. Brad's gonna have to share that with me privately, and then I got to convince my wife to go because she doesn't.
It's well worth it.
My ice cream consumption pretty heavily, but I love that statement. Now, can you and I agree on this? That the finest food ever devised by man is the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Brad Staley.
And this is super funny. So the white chocolate peanut butter cups, like they're my favorite. When they first did the Easter eggs, they were doing the white chocolate.
Oh yeah.
So this was before you could buy them year round, like the white chocolate cups. But I ordered them off of Amazon, paid like $60 to get some in July. Because they had to send them in like a refrigerated shipping container.
Okay, yeah, I was worried about
so
them.
Good, yeah, so good. No, peanut butter's where it's at.
No, when I read that, I said, okay, this man is thinking on the next level. Thinking on it. I knew he was an amazing bass fisherman, but I had no idea just the depth of his intellect.
I'm glad somebody paid attention
until
to that,
I saw.
So thank you for that.
Yeah. Of course, that was amazing. I love that. All right, last question. It's a serious one. I realize you got to go out there and catch them, but is there a set of weather circumstances that you need to play out or you would like to see play out over the course of the final day of practice and the 3 days of the tournament that are going to play into your hands?
Consistency. I just want it to stay the same. Whatever it's going to do, don't throw us a curveball and come up with anything crazy. It's been pretty consistent so far. This morning it was cloudy till probably 10 o'clock or so. And they seem to be biting better for me between like 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock. They're not biting that great first thing in the morning. And they don't seem like they're biting that great later in the afternoon. So it's kind of that midday period. So just stay consistent. Like weatherman, work with us here. Just stay consistent. Don't throw us any curveballs. So
see, everything you say brings another question out of me, so I apologize for that. But we're going to wrap this up in a moment. You mentioned something about how you're not really getting bit that well until 10 or 12. From a fan perspective, from the guy looking at the live feed and seeing where guys stand, That's nerve-wracking. When the guys I'm hoping are going to go out there and catch them don't have a fish by 10 or 11 o'clock, that's nerve-wracking. I got to believe that's nerve-wracking for family and friends.
I've heard it is. I've heard it is. At Wright Patman last year, I had one fish at 1 o'clock when the live went off, and then I ended up bringing in 19 pounds and at 3 o'clock. So it was nerve-wracking for me as well. So, yeah.
Well, of course, during the course of practice, you kind of get dialed in as to when that bite's going to happen, and maybe you don't get
too nervous. Like, out there, I was very nervous because I wasn't getting a lot of bites. I was just getting good bites. Here, I would not worry about it because there's so many fish in this lake. You can catch them if they just turn on. If you get about an hour of them biting, you'll be fine. There's enough fish in here. And that's what I always try to gauge it by. Just how many bites am I getting in practice? Like, how concerned should I be? If I'm on a lake that doesn't have a lot of fish in it, like High Rock, for example, in the summertime fishing something up there, and you don't have but one fish at 12 o'clock, it's probably not going to end well for you.
And that's your home lake.
Yeah, it is.
High Rock, yeah.
I fish it the most, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. Well, I hope everything works out for you, Brad Staley.
Well, I appreciate it very much. Thank you very much for having me on here. It's been awesome, and I'm glad my peanut butter quote.
Oh, peanut butter quote.
Hey, we're BFFs now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good luck over the next few days in this Derby. I'm expecting big things.
I appreciate that.
Expecting a really high finish, a lot of points.
I appreciate that.
Maybe drag home the big trophy.
If they'll bite, I'll do everything I can to get them in the boat.
Absolutely. And you're up against a tremendous amount of talent.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you what, folks, another thing that's fascinating to me about this Derby is whoever wins it, and it's always true to a great degree, you're going to earn it. We always say, oh, you're going to earn it. And of course you will, because you're going to have to beat 116 other guys. But here, because of the level of local knowledge and experience, whoever wins this Derby might earn it to a greater degree than just about any tournament of the whole season, because you're going to beat guys who know this body of water like the back of their hand and better.
For the national tournament, there is as many locals probably that there's ever been in a national touring tournament on this lake.
I believe it. That's exciting. That's one of the things I'm going to be looking for. So good luck out there, man. You got your work cut out for you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
All right, Brad Staley, thank you, man. We appreciate you very much. Folks, we are here at Lake Norman in North Carolina, Huntersville, North Carolina, for stop number 2 on the NPFL season. Our live tournament coverage from Lake Norman begins Wednesday, April 16th, runs through Friday. Luke Duncan and Fat Cat Newton are going to break it down each day from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss the live weigh-ins with Big Al McCullough. Each competition day, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, beginning at 3 p.m. Eastern. That is when Big Al brings the boom. And that's going to do it for this edition of Roundtable. I want to thank everybody for their support of the NPFL. Don't forget to wear the pride. That is what we talk about when we're talking about the caps, the shirts, the hoodies, stuff like that. I want you to get out there and show your support of the league, and the way to do that is to go online to the website at thenationalprofessionalfishingleague.com. There's a section for shop, and check that out. There's a lot of cool stuff. An amazing NPFL logo. If you happen to be able to come out to the weigh-in tomorrow at Blythe Landing Park, you can check the stuff out there in person and purchase. So I hope you'll have a chance to do that. I'm going to be back tomorrow. We're going to have a couple more interviews before on the final day of practice here from Lake Norman. And until then, we will catch you later.